Welcome, Formula One race fans, to Indianapolis. And you know, I never thought I'd say that. I feel a bit like a starving man in Harrods Food Hall, and it's great. It's an excellent circuit. The facilities are absolutely stupefying. The crowd is mega enthusiastic. The atmosphere is fabulous. But let us not forget that this is a World Championship event. Two World Championship leaders on the front row. There he is, Mika Häkkinen, 80 points. Alongside him, Michael Schumacher, 78 points. Mika Häkkinen is on the second row of the grid. David Coulthard up there with Michael Schumacher. And let's not forget that twice this year, Mika Häkkinen has burst through from the second row of the grid to take the lead at the first corner. You heard what Adrian Reynard was saying about tyres. They're going to be absolutely critical here. The circuit is still damp. And this morning, Jacques Villeneuve, who knows this circuit better than most, after all he's won the Indy 500, said half the track is dry, and that's where the banking is, and the rest stays humid and wet the whole time. So dry tyres don't work and wet tyres overheat. It is a big dilemma for them. Yes,
they were blistering left rears in just one lap this morning. I think I would start on slicks, but I haven't had the experience of going through that infield, and I suspect quite a lot of the drivers are going to go wet. There could well be a mixture on the grid, and whatever happens, I believe we're going to see pretty early pit stops for those that do start on wet tyres. It's a question of how far they can go before they have to do that. But with 3G through the banking, this is just a whole different scenario. There's quite a lot of camber even on that pit straight. So that's why it dries so quickly there. We've said it's a circuit of two halves in terms of speed and setup through the weekend. But that's also turned out to be the same, exactly the same with the weather conditions, because as you can see, the pit straight there virtually bone dry now. As I was standing down there, it was literally drying in front of your eyes. There's a little bit of heat bursting through now. So I'm just having a look and see what the track temperature is. Just 12 degrees, mind you. Now, we saw yesterday the cut-off point was 1 minute 24 before they had to come in for slick tyres, and it looked the same this morning, excepting it was so damp and cold that the track would not dry out. And Schumi went out on a set of, Michael Schumacher went out on a set of slicks late on and was some 7 or 8 seconds off the pace. So it's very difficult, Murray, for them to choose the correct moment to come in and make that pit stop.
Yeah, track temperature is just about 1 degree cooler than it was this morning. But, you know, it's a funny thing to say, but the weather conditions for this race look to me to be absolutely ideal for America. Let's make no bones about it. There's Jarno Trulli on wet weather tyres. Let's make no bones about it. Formula One wants to impress America. America is not used to cars racing in the wet on the ovals. They always stop the race, or they don't start it if it's wet, and understandably so, when you're turning left at 220 miles an hour all the time, and if you break away you're going to be in real trouble. But in Formula One they could be seeing a wet dry race, a great introduction for America.
Well, this enormous crowd has never seen a standing start with regard to this circuit especially, or of course any running in the wet. They don't run here in the rain, they just all go home and come back the next day on the super speedway itself. And looking out of our window here, Murray, I can't see a single car on dry tyres. In the first 10, 12 that I can see, all are carrying wet tyres, as you just saw there on Michael Schumacher's Ferrari. Apparently Johnny Herbert down the field is on slicks, but he can afford to take a risk in that respect because he's back in 19th place on the grid. So those wet tyres are going to take some serious punishment.
Right up to the first corner, the right-hander, turn one. It's a sharp 90 degree, like Monza, but much further away. And this is where they turn off the super speedway, running in the opposite direction to the Indy 500. Turn two. Now there's a lot. Turn three is the right-hander, which keeps going right-handed up into turn four, and they're doing about 75 miles an hour there. Then they sprint up to about 140 on that little short straight with Michael Schumacher leading. Now they're coming up to the double 90 at turn 6, there it is, and they're taking that at about 70 miles an hour, I guess. Up to the second fastest part of the course now, Hallman Boulevard, named after the great Hallman family that have pushed Indy on so far. building up to some 185 miles an hour as they turn into turn 8. Parade lap, Schumacher, Coulthard, Hakkinen, Barrichello, Jarno Trulli, Jenson Button, an excellent 6th on the grid, don't forget. Now they're coming up to that bank turn. They will hit it in race conditions at about 155 miles an hour, still accelerating for turn 13, 185 miles an hour. It hasn't been the problem people expected it to be because all the loadings on the tyres and suspension are equally spread. But they then come out onto the long straight past Tower Terrace, 210 miles an hour before they get up to turn 1. And just look at the crowd there. It's absolutely massive. I've been here for the Indy 500 when there were over 400,000 people. There's about 250,000 here today. By far the biggest Formula One crowd that I've ever seen, even bigger than Hungary the first year that we ever had it. And it's coming up to climax time.
Yes, and it looks right. I wonder if it'd feel like being at a disco with not enough people there. Just 250,000 people in a 400-odd-thousand seater stadium, but it doesn't work out that way. We're using about 2/3 of the actual facility, and it feels just great. But a start here on wet tyres on a dry track. Where do you brake into the first corner on wet tyres and a dry track? So a lot of unknowns for everybody sitting out there, and this is a tough one for young Jenson Button too. This is going to be a very strange first few laps of this Grand Prix, Murray.
73 laps. Michael Schumacher on the right, David Coulthard on the left. 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, and the American Grand Prix is go!
Coulthard jumped the start. Coulthard will get a jump start penalty for sure. He was rolling a long time before the lights, so he's in the lead at the moment, but I'm absolutely sure Coulthard jumped the start.
And look at Barrichello attacking Hakkinen, but it's Michael Schumacher. If Martin is right, effectively in the lead. David Coulthard in front at the present moment. Schumacher second, Hakkinen third, Barrichello in 4th position. Where he started, Jarno Trulli is still in 5th place. In 6th position, Jenson Button has held his place, but Jacques Villeneuve has come up ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen, it looks to me, and the young Canadian who has won here at Indy is making a colossal fight of it as they come into Hulman Boulevard.
And Johnny Herbert on those slick tyres is last, absolutely plumb last, I believe now. So certainly those wets are doing the job in these early stages, but how long will they last?
Yeah, jump start under investigation. David Coulthard is being investigated by the stewards of the meeting. They will be looking at tapes of the start there to decide whether David has jumped it. If he has, as Martin said, of course, he's going to have a penalty.
Yes, I don't think they'll have to look at the tapes very long, unfortunately. Coulthard was definitely rolling as the lights changed, so that is a bit of a false lead for him at the moment, but he's very, very fast through the first part of this lap. Look at the cars moving around on that banking. The tyres squirm under that load. They're there to clear the water, not to lean on a 180-mile-an-hour long corner.
And who is the fastest man on the track as the Jordan there comes out and takes Ralf Schumacher?
Frentzen passes Schumacher, that's for 8th place. Frentzen then whistling up the inside into turn 1. You're going to see a lot of that this afternoon. They're carrying a lot of wind, but they can follow through those last 2 fast corners and get a tremendous slipstream on their way down to turn 1. 926 metres is the first pit straight.
And who has got the wing loadings and the tyre fuel combinations right? We've got a long way to see. We're on lap 2. David Coulthard still in front. Is he going to be penalised? Michael Schumacher is second. Look at now. Watch Coulthard on the left there, getting away early. Schumacher tucks in behind him. Mika Hakkinen remains second, and Rubens Barrichello 4th. But it may well be that Barrichello is effectively coming up to 3rd position. There we are. There is confirmation. It looks absolutely without doubt to me that David Coulthard and both Jenson Button and Jarno Trulli have been off on the grass as we look again at the start. And we're on lap 2. David Coulthard is 1.2 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher at the present moment. Mika Hakkinen in 3rd position. as you look down at turn 1, the McLaren leading the Ferrari, the Scotsman leading the German. There is the Scotsman, David Coulthard, 2 times a pole position holder this year, 3rd in the World Championship at the present moment, 19 points behind, and into the pits comes Jenson Button from... He started in 6th position. Now, is this a tyre change? Yes, indeed it is. And right behind him is Heinz Harald Frentzen.
Yes, a puncture there. So that's Trulli in with a left rear puncture. I wonder if Button had a problem. Button has now left the pit, so it may be tactical from Jenson Button. We think he went off the road. Maybe he's decided to come in for slicks. We haven't seen it on screen, but Button did go off the road. Now, whether he's collected a lot of grass in the radiator ducting, I don't know, and whether they put slicks on, I'm sure we'll find out very shortly.
So here are the top 10. David Coulthard now 1.7 seconds ahead of the battle between Michael Schumacher and Mika Häkkinen, the 2 championship leaders, with Rubens Barrichello there in 4th position. Look back for Jacques Villeneuve, who is in 5th position now. He's fought his way up ahead of Heinz Harald Frentzen. Ralf Schumacher is 7th, Zonta is 8th. Then it's Deniz and Jos Verstappen in the arrows, 10th. Excellent.
Yes, I think Fisichella may have jumped the start as well. Now looking up, we've got car 2 and 11 under investigation by the stewards at this early stage. Coulthard extremely eager to get away. And, well, I thought I saw it out of the corner of my eye, but when they showed it in slow-mo, very clear, Coulthard was rolling when the lights changed.
Martin, why on earth haven't we had a decision already? You've seen the tapes, I've seen the tapes, the stewards can see the tapes. Why haven't they said something?
They've got 20 minutes to notify the team, and the team then have 3 laps maximum before they must pull the driver in. So they'll have to, Coulthard needs to get as far out front, they need to leave it as long as they can before they bring him in so that he doesn't have too much of a penalty. Remember, in Canada, when Coulthard's car stalled on the line and he got a stop and go penalty there, it cost him very, very dearly, and it'll be just the same this afternoon, despite that 1.7 second lead he's got at the moment.
Well, Michael Schumacher is lapping within a few hundredths of a second at the same speed as David Coulthard. He will, of course, almost certainly have been told by Ross Brawn, his team chief on the pit lane, that David Coulthard is under investigation. Schumacher will be keeping in touch with David Coulthard, hoping, no doubt, that he is going to be pulled in and that Schumacher will be able to take the lead. Mika Häkkinen is now nearly 2 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, and you can see that Schumacher is closing inexorably on the leading McLaren of David Coulthard, with Barrichello now 4 seconds behind the race leader. Heinz Harald Frentzen is a man to watch at the present moment. He's in 6th position, but he's closing on Jacques Villeneuve, who is 5th, looking back down Hulman Boulevard, which is absolutely clear at the present moment.
Lacey in the pits. Now, he's always one of the first. Look, Schumacher getting very, very close to Coulthard. As I said, Coulthard blistering rear tyres very early this morning. Lacey is often the first to be brave to come in for a set of slicks. He's the best on a damp track.
Go! Michael's going. Sorry, Martin, on you go.
No worries. Michael there having a look. He looked close enough, but I think the camera angle there was a bit deceiving us. But Michael clearly with the faster car underneath him, and Coulthard's job really, with his, I'm sure he knows he's going to get a stop go as well, is to keep Michael behind him as long as he can and give Häkkinen the chance to get in the hunt. So Coulthard's best thing he can do for the team now is let Häkkinen come into the hunt.
Yeah, this is lap 5, and when are the stewards going to say whatever they're going to say to Ron Dennis, boss of McLaren? David Coulthard watching his mirrors, putting himself in a position where he's going to make it very difficult for Michael Schumacher to get through, but Schumacher attacks. He's going to try and go around the outside at turn 1. He apparently doesn't know that David Coulthard is under investigation, and look at the way that the German is fighting, sawing left, sawing right, almost cutting the gearbox of David Coulthard's McLaren in half as they go into the right-hander at turn 4.
For sure, all 3 drivers at the front there will know of Coulthard's predicament. There is no, they have not declared. He did manage to stop the car completely, but he was rolling before the lights, so they'll take a view on that. They've got a graph that'll be printed up on a computer of exactly, and look, Häkkinen getting a run up the inside there of Schumacher.
I must say that David Coulthard is doing a masterly job, irrespective of what he thinks his future is going to be, because he's making it mighty difficult for Michael Schumacher. I do believe that if Schumacher could get past him, he could get away from him, but he can't get past him, and now he's got a big worry. He's got to A, try to get past Coulthard, B, stop Hakkinen from getting past him. You're looking at the first, second and third. There is 1.2 seconds, and the Ferrari pits are getting ready to bring somebody in. Is it Michael Schumacher? I guess it's more likely to be Schumacher than Barrichello, because Barrichello is all by himself, but it may well be the Brazilian.
Barrichello is in the pits. He's out of that picture. Look, he should be in the back of that shot we just saw. So Barrichello will be coming into the pit lane, and look at the toe that Michael Schumacher's got this side. Yeah. Coulthard goes to cover the line. Schumacher goes down the outside, and they just about touch. And once again, oh, they're so close.
Yes! Fantastic, and the crowd has gone berserk. They might well be Italians rather than Americans. They appreciated that. They love to see a fight, and my gosh, they got one. Now, I bet Coulthard will move over and let Hakkinen through. Yes, that's exactly what he's done. He's done his job as best he could, knowing that he's under investigation. He's held Schumacher up as long as he has, that could. The German has fought past him brilliantly. Hakkinen has taken over the attack now, and I'm expecting Coulthard, if the stewards say thumbs down, to be in shortly.
Yes, it was very brave by Michael Schumacher, and I have to say Coulthard making life as difficult as he could and then played it fair. It would have been awful if Coulthard had bumped Schumacher out of there. It would not be the correct thing to do. That's not the sort of thing David would do, but he sure is going to make it as hard as he can. And Schumacher putting an enormous amount of faith in David Coulthard there with his championship chances. Incredible. Look at this. Squeezes Coulthard across the curb. They must have touched. That was so close.
Oh, now listen, the fastest man on the track at the moment is Johnny Herbert, down in 16th position in the Jaguar. But he must have changed tyres. Indeed, he has changed tyres. No, he started on the dries. Remember, the conditions are getting right, and there's hot news from James Allen.
Mika Hakkinen is in the pits, as you can see, going to the slicks. All that excitement with the pass of Michael Schumacher. Rubens Barrichello put the slick tyres on when he made that stop. Now look at Jenson Button's times. He's 4 seconds alone faster in the first sector on the slick tyres. Michael Schumacher is going to have to make this switch very soon as well. It could be the opposite of what happened in Spa. McLaren reacting first to put their man on the slick tyres. Michael's got to get in very soon to make that switch too.
Yeah, Johnny Herbert is laughing. He started on dries. Remember, he's 44 seconds behind the leaders, but he'll make up a lot of time. He's not going to have to come in.
Yes, it costs you about 38 seconds in total to stop here. Car 2 has a 10-second stop and go penalty. And the real pain for Coulthard is he cannot change tyres, and Fisichella too. So Coulthard and Fisichella both with 10-second stop and goes, and they cannot change tyres when they're in the pits. They have to go round again.
So now we're on lap 8 out of 73 with Michael Schumacher 2 points behind Mika Hakkinen in the World Championship, with 2 races to go after this. Just going through the puddles there as he goes into the banking.
He didn't go in the pits. I'm absolutely gobsmacked at that. He did not go in the pits. I really think that could be a tactical error there. So Coulthard is in the pit lane for his stop and go. I'm amazed. Mind you, it's a 23.8 from Michael, so he's actually, no, maybe he's right. He's still faster than the other guys who have already moved on to slick tyres.
Yeah, 1:24 has been the critical time for changing tyres. 1 minute 24 seconds. Here is David Coulthard taking his 10-second penalty. He came in from the top 3, and this is why he got it.
Yes, he's on the right side. He rolled initially, he reacted too fast, then tried to stop it and go again. Sometimes you can get away with that, but that was just a few metres too far there for Coulthard. He rejoins the track, but still on wet tyres. But Michael Schumacher doing a sterling job up at the front, and I can even see the outside of his left rear is blistered quite badly. Look at the dark area there, the shaded area on the extreme left of his left rear tyre. James.
The lesson we learned though, Martin, at Hockenheim is you can actually drive these wet tyres, the soft wet tyres, quite hard, let them blister. It doesn't actually affect the performance that much for a little while. I think what Michael and Ferrari are trying to do now is build themselves a big enough cushion that they can get back out in front of Coulthard and Hakkinen, obviously, who are currently 31.6 seconds behind them on the road. Bear in mind what Ross Brawn said to me at the start though. There's a possibility of showers again, and I'm seeing a few spots of rain begin to fall, so It's very much finely balanced, this.
Well, Michael Schumacher's just gone round in 1:23.7. Remember that magic figure, 1:24. And I must say this, while it's still relevant, in fourth position at the moment is the pride of Argentina, Gaston Mazzacane in the Minardi. He has not come in. Diniz has not come in. He is third in the Sauber. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is second, 13 seconds. And you're looking at Frentzen now behind Michael Schumacher. We're on lap 10 out of 73. And there is Pedro Diniz, third place, 5.5 seconds behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Schumacher, Frentzen, Diniz, Mazzacane, Häkkinen, who's been in, Coulthard back in.
Coulthard in for slicks, but I have to say, I was completely wrong. Michael Schumacher's got it aced, and he is still the fastest man on the track on wet tyres. Now, he was some 4 seconds faster than Häkkinen, who is on slicks. So Michael spotted it. The wets are not that bad after all. Certainly the way they're working on that Ferrari.
This is Ayrton Senna in reverse. Senna's brilliance was that he could stay out in the wet on dry weather tyres longer than anybody else and put up comparable lap times and go on and win the race. Well, Michael Schumacher, you've heard the situation now, and you look at Pedro Diniz on lap 11. Now, after Johnny Herbert, who I last spoke to you, was in 18th position, he's now up into 10th place in the Jaguar as a result of starting the race on dry tyres, fighting at the start when the surface was damp, and benefiting as it dries out. He's in 10th place.
Yes, it's not going to work for Johnny, though. He's 52 seconds behind the leader, and it's a 38 second stop, so Johnny lost a little bit too much in the early stages. Michael Schumacher now 1.5 seconds a lap faster than Frentzen in second place. Michael going faster and faster each lap, despite the track drying out. There's Barrichello, he's down in 7th place, and still he's 4 seconds slower than Michael Schumacher. So Michael's really got it spotted. Wets are still the answer.
Yeah, but look at this battle. 6th is Villeneuve. 7th it was Barrichello, because Schumacher in the Williams BMW passes the Ferrari at turn 1 and sets about the BAR with its Honda engine in front of him.
That's a key move there for Ralf Schumacher, because he has already stopped for slicks. So Ralf Schumacher nicely making his way through on the dry tyres.
Lap 11. And Barrichello, there he is, he's been in, and it's not a good race for the Brazilian at the present moment, starting 4th on the grid. Now you can see from the matte colour of the tarmac there, which is glistening most of the way on the twisty bit of the infield, that it's still very damp there. And Villeneuve, who you were just looking at as now we join Mika Häkkinen, was saying that it's very, very slippery indeed on the infield. Now watch Mika Häkkinen as he comes up to Gaston Mazzacane in the Minardi, who is in 4th position. He's not been in, and of course Häkkinen has. Häkkinen on the dry tyres.
We know that Herbert definitely started on dry tyres. I don't know about Mazzacane. Maybe we can have a look. They look like wet tyres to me. They look fairly nasty blisters, but Michael Schumacher still in the 1:23s.
lap 14 out of 73. Michael Schumacher now still leads by 17 seconds on wet weather tyres, but Jenson Button now is the fastest man on the track. He's changed to dries, and so we can expect Schumacher to be in any time.
What you were watching there, and still Häkkinen has not passed Mazzacani. Mazzacani's in third place, and Mika Häkkinen, that's 2 consecutive laps. He's followed Mazzacani and can't seem to do anything about him, as Trulli goes straight on. What you saw as we came back from the break was Trulli sitting in the pits after a disastrous stop. It seemed as if the Jordan team brought out the wrong tyres, and he's out of the race anyway. But he sat there for ages and ages, and they had to change the tyres. It looked like they were putting wets on, and they should have had a set of slicks. So finally then Button, and look, Mika Häkkinen waving his arm. Maybe Mika doesn't realise, I mean, it's the first time ever he's racing that Minardi for position.
Yeah, it's the 7th retirement for Trulli this year, and Mazzacani is in third place, he's in a podium position. He's not going to give up, he should do, of course. Now, where are the blue flags, and why doesn't he watch them?
No, there are no blue flags, Murray. He's in third, he should not have a blue flag. As I said, Mazzacani's not used to having a McLaren behind him without seeing a sea of blue flags. He is racing for position. He is totally entitled to hold Häkkinen up as long as he can, as now Frentzen comes in from second place for his slicks. Mazzacani was definitely on wets. I had a look in that last shot, and Häkkinen is now completing his third lap behind the Minardi.
And the Jaguars are continuing to go well. Eddie Irvine, Marc Genet has just gone fastest in the first sector, and he's in the Minardi. Ralf Schumacher, the quickest man on the track. Now, listen to this. Michael Schumacher leads Frentzen by 43 seconds at the present moment. Schumacher is the only man of importance up the top not to have come in yet. Frentzen is 43 seconds behind him. Mika Häkkinen is now officially in third position. I'm waiting to see the shot. Where is Mazzacani? But Ralf Schumacher is the fastest of the lot. And there is Jenson Button. Look at his flat-spotted right front tyre. And he's out of the race.
Yeah, I think Jenson's locked up big time somewhere, been off the road by the looks of it. This is at the end of the pit lane, so where on earth has Jenson come from? How did he get there? Where did he lock up his tyres? We'll see a replay, hopefully. And look, a few spits of rain on the helicam there. That doesn't necessarily mean to say there's much falling on the racetrack. You do get a false impression from those cameras. And there you're watching Barrichello, who is down in 9th place and not going at all well on those slicks since he changed over. Michael Schumacher still going faster and faster on his wets. Ferrari are ready, and we think it must be for Michael Schumacher this time round.
Yeah, but watch Johnny Herbert behind Rubens Barrichello. Johnny Herbert very much in the top 10. Here they come. There's the BAR of Jacques Villeneuve, followed by Barrichello, followed by Johnny Herbert. Over the line they go. Ralf Schumacher is up into third place in the Williams BMW. He is really flying. He's just done a 1:20.8.
Yes, that's 2.5 seconds.
Oh, look at Herbert.
Yeah, Johnny's now gone past Barrichello. Barrichello nowhere on this slippery track. Michael has to come into the pits now. He's now starting to lose 1 to 2 seconds, and we understand that the Ferrari is in the pit lane. Yes, he is now, James.
A 43-second lead over Häkkinen. He will rejoin in the lead. Amazingly, Martin, he's putting new tyres on the right-hand side of the car and old ones, used ones on the left-hand side of the car. Watch how long the fuel nozzle is on for. That'll tell you how much fuel they're putting in at 12 litres per second. Quite a bit of fuel. So quite a bit of fuel for Michael, so that will push him quite deep, 7 seconds, push him quite deep into the race before he makes the major stop. But what they learned here was what Button did in Germany. He went long on the wet tyres. They didn't blister, or rather they blistered, but it didn't matter on the pace. That's what Ferrari learned from that, and they've used it today. McLaren have not used that lesson.
Great thinking again. Out of the pit lane comes Michael Schumacher. He was leading by 43 seconds ahead of Mika Häkkinen when he came in. Mika Häkkinen is now really getting a spurt on. He's 16 seconds behind Michael Schumacher after they have both stopped. Ralf Schumacher is only 3 seconds behind Häkkinen and lapping faster than the McLaren in third place. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in fourth position. Remember, he's made his pit stop. Pedro Diniz still in an excellent in fifth place in the Sauber. Jos Verstappen, the Dutchman in the Arrows, is sixth. and Ralf Schumacher is keeping up this blistering pace. He's gone faster again. He's closing the gap on Mika Häkkinen. Hopefully there they are in shot. Häkkinen on the left has just gone past Fisichella, who is in 20th place, and Ralf Schumacher will be vying to do the same thing.
After his 10-second stop and go, and then having to come in next time around for slicks, Coulthard down in 14th place. So the only man not to visit the pit lane so far as we're into lap 17 is Johnny Herbert, 8th place man, the only man we think that was brave enough to start on the wet tyres.
Jacques Villeneuve there fighting with Barrichello. Only one Ferrari in the top 6, only one McLaren in the top 6-point scoring position. Villeneuve fighting Barrichello, and behind Barrichello is Pedro de la Rosa. The arrows are 6th and 10th.
New fastest lap for Ralf Schumacher, still flying a 1:19.0. I'm sure it'll come up on the screen. Johnny Herbert has now passed Villeneuve and homing in on Verstappen and De Nit. Johnny needing to impress the American racing scene. He wants to drive an IndyCar, and there goes Johnny past De Nit, and that is for 6th place. No, he doesn't quite make it stick. And don't turn in on his nose, Pedro, and Johnny lives for another day. But that's for 6th place they're squabbling. Johnny having a great race.
Yeah, the man from Romford. Johnny Herbert, who so badly smashed his feet in 1988 in that dreadful Formula 3000 race at Brands Hatch. He's never walked the same since, but he drives magnificently. And as you can see, he's attacking to get the Jaguar up into the points by getting past Pedro Diniz. But ahead of both of them is Jos Verstappen, and here is Herbert, ducking and diving behind the Sauber. Pedro Diniz very sensibly keeping to the and off goes. There, Johnny Herbert goes off.
No, Diniz
Sorry,
went off.
Diniz
Johnny
goes
went
off,
through.
yeah.
So
Diniz
now
goes off. Barrichello's now attacking him.
Diniz comes back on in front of fellow countryman Rubens Barrichello, or Ruby as they call him over here on the American commentary. I'm sure he'd be pleased with that one, but he certainly won't be pleased with this race. But Diniz locking the inside as he turned into turn 10 there and sailing straight onto the grass where there's even less grip. Johnny says thank you very much.
Now, we didn't see whether Barrichello got past him, but it means that Johnny Herbert is
now.
up.
There it is now. That's Barrichello getting a good slipstream off of Diniz, and he should have the line into the first corner. He goes back for a second helping of toe and catapults past Diniz. That was smart thinking there by Rubens. Pulled out of the slipstream, hit a brick wall of aerodynamic drag, ducked back in again and launched one up the inside. Nice move there, Rubens.
Haven't seen much of what's happening at the front here. Is the answer Michael Schumacher, lap 19 out of 73. Mika Häkkinen is going quicker at the present moment. He's 9.7 seconds behind the Ferrari and closing. Ralf Schumacher is third. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is fourth. Jos Verstappen is fifth. You've seen Johnny Herbert attacking, and off goes Mika Salo in the Sauber. He's had a very rotten time in practicing. He was 16th, he's out of the race.
Hey, look at this. Mika Häkkinen is already 1.2, 1.3 seconds up on Michael Schumacher this time around. Schumacher is not quick at this stage of the race. Häkkinen is the man on the move, and the lead is now down to 8.1 seconds as you see Salo moving off, and he put too much power in. He could have got out of there, but he spun the wheels too much, so he should have driven away so gently, and he missed his chance there, Mika, of just clambering out of that gravel trap.
This is turning out to be a great USA Grand Prix. We're on lap 22 out of 73, and Michael Schumacher has got the message that Mika Häkkinen, after their pit stops, was catching him. He's just put in the fastest lap of the race, 1 minute 17.581, 4/10 of a second faster than Mika Häkkinen. He now leads the Finn in the McLaren by 7.5 seconds. Ralf Schumacher continues to hold a brilliant third place in the Williams BMW ahead of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And there is the German. His teammate Jarno Trulli has long since retired. Fifth place is Jos Verstappen in the Arrows. The Arrows is going superbly here. But look, watch this. That is Johnny Herbert, who's come up from 19th on the grid to 6th in the race in the Jaguar.
Yes, he's been about 3/4 of a second faster than Verstappen in the previous 3 or 4 laps as he's been catching up. Johnny with a very, very good Jaguar underneath him at the moment, and he seems to also have good straight line speed, but so traditionally does that Arrows. The Arrows has been one of the fastest cars in the straight all weekend, so once again, in fact, it is the fastest in a couple of speed traps around here. So Johnny's got his work cut out. He's going to have to be brave on the braking into one to get up the inside of Verstappen. And Häkkinen responding to Michael Schumacher's new pace and brings the gap down to just 6.3 seconds. Louise, what can you tell us?
I'm standing here with Jenson Button. Jenson, that was a rather short but fraught Grand Prix for you.
Yeah, definitely. The second or third lap, I think I went down the inside of Jarno again, but he seemed to move across when I was alongside him, and then we hit wheels. Then I got a puncture, so the team made a good decision to try slicks, and I think it was working. The way it was, how fast I was catching the people in front, and then I don't know what happened. I was alongside Barrichello, and it was like I hit something, like I went across the finish line, like I hit the bricks or something, and then the engine just died, and that was it. Game over.
Thanks, Jenson.
And Johnny Herbert there is attacking Jos Verstappen for that 5th place. Now there is Jacques Villeneuve in 7th place and Rubens Barrichello just behind him in the Ferrari. And Mika Häkkinen continues to close on Michael Schumacher. Up front, 5.5 seconds now between the Ferrari in the lead and the McLaren in 2nd place. Ralf Schumacher is on his own, as is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. But Jos Verstappen in the Arrows has got Johnny Herbert right behind him. 7th is Jacques Villeneuve. There is the Canadian, the Indy 500 winner from the past. And he's got Rubens Barrichello falling back a bit in the Ferrari.
Another 0.8 of a second out of the lead by Häkkinen, down to 5.5 now behind Michael Schumacher. Häkkinen is in a Schumacher sandwich. He's 5.5 behind Michael, or Mike as they call him out here, and 5.1 ahead of Ralf Schumacher. But Mika is the man on the move, and he's already 0.4 of a second up on this man Michael Schumacher in the first section of this lap. So it's really, they're just yo-yoing around. Michael attacks and then Häkkinen counter-attacks. Good stuff.
Here's Michael. Now, what's happening behind Rubens Barrichello? 8th place, 9th is Diniz, 10th is De La Rosa. Both Arrows in the top 10. Eddie Irvine 11th in the 2nd Jaguar. David Coulthard 1.1 seconds behind Irvine in the McLaren. Ricardo Zonta is 13th. Then Marc Genet, Jean Alesi, Nick Heidfeld in the Prost, Alexander Wurz in the Benetton. Mats Akane is 18th. Fisichella has been lapped 19th out of the race. Mika Salo in the Sauber. Jenson Button that you've just heard from in the Williams, and Jarno Trulli in the Jordan. There is race leader. Now you can see the gap between the red Ferrari on the right and the silver McLaren on the left as they go into the infield. It just inside the golf course here at Indianapolis. Believe it or not, the whole Grand Prix circuit is inside the Indy Super Speedway, as is the golf course. And amazingly, the Grand Prix circuit at 2.6 miles long is actually a whisker longer than the Super Speedway. Now, they're up to this complex of turns 8, 9 and 10, which is the only mild criticism I've heard of the circuit. It does disturb the rhythm, but if this race goes well, and it's a fabulous race and America likes it, I think they're going to make alterations to the track, make it longer and probably cut out those twisty bits.
Häkkinen 7/10 up in the mid-sector of this lap, so the gap is going to be well under 5 seconds. The start-finish line is quite a long way down this straight. 16.6 for Michael, 15.7 for Häkkinen. The gap is down to 4.1 seconds. Hakkinen is sustaining this charge. James, what can you tell us?
Michael Schumacher at that stop, the hose was on for 6.4 seconds. He took 25 laps with the fuel on board, so I reckon he's fueled to about lap 50-something. But I think Hakkinen has got less fuel on board, possibly about 15 or 20 kilos less. That's about 4 or 5 laps. So what Hakkinen has to do in this phase of the race before he makes his stop is get on terms with Michael Schumacher and hopefully get in front of him. It's the only way he's going to be able to win it.
Thanks for that, James. We're looking at Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows, with Johnny Herbert in 6th place right behind him. They're coming up to a slower car. I think it's Fisichella in the Benetton, and it may well be that if Verstappen gets his timing wrong to get past the Benetton, Johnny Herbert will see his opportunity to move up from one. Oh, and who is there? Is Mika Hakkinen with his car on fire. Mika Hakkinen with the McLaren on fire. Yes, he's going to have to come in, no doubt about that. Oh, this is tragic luck for the McLaren team and Mika Hakkinen. And if Michael Schumacher can stay out there, it is going to put him in a commanding lead for the World Championship. Oh, Mika Hakkinen crawls in. Schumacher pulling away, of course, all the time. Ralf Schumacher goes up into 2nd place as I talk to you, and as Mika Hakkinen comes in undoubtedly on lap 27 to retire from the USA Grand Prix. And that is only his 3rd retirement of the year. Out in Australia, out in Brazil, and it couldn't have happened at a worse place here.
Yes, I think that's the first time we've seen a McLaren fail, probably in 22 starts, something like that, or 24 starts between the pair of them. Such an unusual sight these days. Both the front runners have had great reliability, Ferrari and McLaren. McLaren probably even better. And look, it's really, there must be a hydraulic or oil line that's come adrift in there. And
bit of a fire marshal wouldn't go amiss.
Yeah, exactly. And the mechanics are down there. Hakkinen made it just into the beginning of the pit lane. Sensible to stop it early. You don't want to go in where you know there are 22 fuel rigs sitting. So Hakkinen stops it early, and that is a huge dent in his chances of a 3rd World Championship.
Well, let's just consider the situation. Mika Hakkinen was 2 points ahead of Michael Schumacher in the World Championship. If, capital I, capital F, if Michael Schumacher wins this race, he will get 10 World Championship points, which would put him 8 points ahead of Mika Hakkinen with 2 races to go. Japan in 2 weeks, Malaysia in 4 weeks. The German is certainly looking good, but we're on lap 28. It's a 73-lap race. Anything could happen.
Yes, it's such a shame for you, the viewers, and the 250,000 people here, because that was shaping up to be a great, great squabble there between the 2 finest drivers in Formula 1 at the moment. Now we've got 3 Germans in the top 3. Looks like a good day for Germany at the moment. Not a great day for the British mob, although where's Herbert gone? Herbert has fallen down to 13th. He's in the pits as we talk. That's obviously for his first scheduled stop of the afternoon, and a major drama there. They're changing the front wing. So are they, and it doesn't look damaged in any way. That's going to cost Johnny 20-30 seconds. There goes his World Championship points almost certainly. What a shame. I don't know what was the problem with it. Hakkinen there, back into the pits, looking at his car and reflecting on what may have been there. Shame for Herbert. He's dropped out of the picture, so top Brit at the moment is Irvine in 9th, and Coulthard chasing him, level with him as they went over the start line. 0.0 between them, off out of our view, but Coulthard in 10th.
And no doubt the calm, imperturbable Ross Brawn, the Ferrari master tactician and technical chief on the pit lane, will have said to Michael Schumacher, Michael, Mika is out of the race. Now, just take things easy. Don't get riled, but Michael Schumacher won't do that. Now, at the present moment, we've got the prospect of the most successful brothers combination in the history of Formula 1. And unless I'm very much mistaken, it's the 9th brothers pairing. Finishing 1st and 2nd, because there is Ralf Schumacher in the Williams BMW. He is in 2nd place, 12.5 seconds behind brother Michael, and 16 seconds ahead of fellow German Heinz-Harald Frentzen. So Ferrari leads, Williams BMW 2nd, and the highest place that they have had this season is a 3rd place, 3 of them for Ralf Schumacher, and 4th Verstappen, 5th Villeneuve, 6th Rubens Barrichello, Lap 31 out of 73, no change at the front. Ralf Schumacher is second to Michael. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is third. But look at this battle for 4th, 5th and 6th. Jos Verstappen in the orange arrows ahead of Villeneuve as we look at De La Rosa and David Coulthard battling for 7th position. David Coulthard has fought his way up and he's now up into that 9th position in the top 10. But a terrific battle between Verstappen, Villeneuve and Barrichello. Only about 6 seconds covering the battle for 4th, 5th and 6th places, which at the present moment Jos Verstappen in the Arrows has got. And the highest position that we've had for an Arrows this year is Jos Verstappen's 4th place in Italy. The last race at Monza, they're doing really well.
Yes, so 7.5 seconds look from 6th through to 9th. Coulthard's too slow out of the turn 11 to be able to get a run at the Arrows, which is very, very fast in a straight line. So his rise up through the field after that stop-go penalty for jumping the star has really come to a bit of a grinding halt now. He cleared 5 of them, but now it looks significantly harder as he comes up against a car that has decent grip and a lot of straight line speed. Denit's driving well just ahead of them. He's in 7th. Barrichello just down the road by a second and a bit.
Yeah, so watch Deniz, the Arrows and David Coulthard while I tell you about the Constructors' Championship. Mika Häkkinen there out of the race, no points, and David Coulthard is out of the points. Both the Ferraris are in the top 6. 10 potential points for Michael Schumacher, 1 potential point for Rubens Barrichello, 11 altogether. And Ferrari started this race 4 points behind McLaren, so they could end this race 7 points ahead if things stay as they are.
Coulthard much better out of 11 that time, Murray, look, and much closer too. I think De La Rosa slightly put off his stride by Diniz, but can Coulthard pick up enough of a toe? Doesn't look like it, does it? He's clearly going to be faster down there in the slipstream, and De La Rosa feinting a look up the inside of 7th place man Diniz. Well, DC has not got enough straight line speed.
2 great scraps on the course, you're looking at one of them. Verstappen, Villeneuve and Barrichello for 4th, and here is Diniz, De La Rosa and Coulthard fighting for 7th position, held by the Brazilian in the Sauber at the present moment. And it's even Steven as far as lap times are concerned as Michael Schumacher goes into turn 1 at the end of that 210-mile-an-hour straight on his 34th lap out of 73, leading Ralf Schumacher, his brother, by 14.5 seconds.
Yes, Michael's stretching it out now. That was his fastest lap of the race so far, the previous lap. Now beginning to pull away from Ralf. Ralf looks like he's been on a rally, doesn't he? I think there must have been quite a few cars off from that first lap, dragging mud back onto the racetrack, and the aerodynamics just trail it down the side of the car. Several of the cars out there looking a little bit scruffy, and we're not even at halfway point yet.
I'm mighty impressed, Martin, by the Arrows. Jos Verstappen in 4th place, De La Rosa in 8th position. They've got the excellent Supertech engine. It's a very slippery motor car, thanks to Egbal Hamady and Mike Coughlin's design work on it. And they've a very small budget compared with the teams ahead of them. And Ralf Schumacher tiptoeing round the corner there.
Yes, you saw in the background the Jaguar, I believe that was of Johnny Herbert, remembering he was absolutely flying. That nose change he had to have, I just couldn't see a reason why, but there must have been one, has put him down to 17th and last but one, unfortunately. So sterling effort from Johnny Herbert in the early part of the race, the only man who started this race on slick tyres, got up into 6th place, was flying still, but unfortunately now down in 17th.
Well, we're getting towards a half distance. Half distance is about 35, 36 laps. We're on lap 35 at the present moment, and Michael Schumacher just must be praying for reliability, because he's got a comfortable 15-second cushion between himself and his brother. He's 33 seconds ahead of Frentzen, who is in 3rd place. Everybody has been in at least once. Fisichella's been in twice. Mika Häkkinen, of course, has been in twice. The second visit was to retire. Jarno Trulli made a couple of stops before he retired. Retirements in the order that they left the race. Jarno Trulli was out first. then Jenson Button. Mika Salo retired the Sauber, and the most important retirement from the point of view of the World Championship, Mika Hakkinen, and he is well and truly out of the race. No points at the present moment for McLaren because David Coulthard is down in 9th place.
Yes, well, and that was Fisichella spinning off. He's already had a stop-and-go penalty, so he's not in the action. There he is trying to correct it. But Johnny Herbert did, in fact, have a damaged right-hand front corner of his wing. That's why they changed it. And we believe also Verstappen is in the wall somewhere, and it's going to be somewhere close to that.
Here it is. This will be a replay, and it is coming up to turn 8. There's Fisichella spinning.
But at the bottom of the screen, Murray, I think we just saw Verstappen losing the tail end of the car. So this is Coulthard shaping up one more time at the back of that Arrows. He's got to get some kind of supersonic slipstream because he's carrying more wing than the Arrows, and as he pulls out he will hit a barn door, and still Coulthard cannot get close enough, and there is the end result of Verstappen. I think he locked the rears on the way in to turn 8, and he's made it as far as the wall across the slippery grass.
Obviously okay, making sure his steering wheel was put on again as per regulations. Now let's have a look at this replay as David Coulthard comes up behind the Arrows.
I think we're back live on this one, but I've crashed a couple of Tom Walkinshaw's cars like Verstappen just has done, and he's not a pretty sight when you get back to the pits. He seems to be even wider and sterner than normal when you get there, I have to say.
Well, David Coulthard fighting for 7th position at the moment, and he's still 2 places away from a single World Championship point, and to get it, he's got to get past De La Rosa and Pedro Diniz, who is in 6th place, last World Championship point scoring position. Rubens Barrichello, of course, has moved up to 5th position. Good news for Ferrari as a result of Verstappen going out, so he's on a potential 2 points, with Michael Schumacher's 10 making 12. Jacques Villeneuve is in 4th place in the BAR, lapping faster than Frentzen.
Look at this time, Coulthard, if ever closer. Now this must surely be his chance. If he can't do it on this, I wonder how David's ever going to find enough straight line speed. There's just no way through there. Coulthard really now struggling behind that car. We've got some strange lap times going on there. Fastest 2 men on the track last time around, Villeneuve and Barry. Look, and Coulthard makes it through. De La Rosa running wide in 3, Coulthard squeezing through, and that was a key one for David because that Arrows is so fast in a straight line.
Exactly, and Pedro de la Rosa, certainly one of the finds of this season. He's had a lot of success in previous categories. Champion in Formula Renault, champion in Formula 3, champion in Formula Nippon, then he was the Jordan test driver. Now he's in the Arrows, making a very good fist of it indeed, hopefully staying with them next year. We are on lap 38 as David Coulthard now has a look at Pedro Diniz is Sauber for 6th position and 1 World Championship point. Jacques Villeneuve exits turn 13, still ahead of Rubens Barrichello in 4th position, Villeneuve, and the fastest man on the track, of course, is David Coulthard, but he's bottled up at the present moment. Can he get past? Well, Villeneuve, and here's Villeneuve, here's Coulthard having a go at Pedro Diniz at the end of the straight. Pedro Diniz shuts the door in his face, which he's perfectly entitled to do at that juncture of the course, and off goes Ralf Schumacher momentarily, 17 points behind the leader in 2nd place.
Yes, 17 seconds behind the leader, and I don't think it would have cost Ralf too much there. I think he just scampered down the grass between 9 and 10. Here we're going to see it. He locks up the inside front, as you can see. I think he then had to do that short straight, just spinning his wheels down the grass as Michael Schumacher sets a new lap record of 1:15.229, and he really is very comfortable up front. It was Ralf in 2nd place who went off the road. Ralf doing a 17.3 on that lap, so actually it cost him about just over a second, not as much as you'd think.
Have you ever seen so many people at a Formula 1 Grand Prix before? The answer is no, because there haven't been as many. Massive crowd. David Coulthard again. Attack, attack, attack. This could be his opportunity into the bank, turn 13. Right up behind Pedro Deniz's Sauber. He can pull through and get past now. Pedro de la Rosa sees his opportunity. Pedro Deniz shuts the door, having a go.
Now David's gone up the inside. He had to have a second go at the slipstream again, and as long as he doesn't outbrake himself, he has a clear run. Good manoeuvring there for David. He's just got the McLaren just is not fast enough in a straight line, but he's using the others. Isn't it great to see them really being able to follow each other so closely at 200 miles an hour? There must have been, what, a half a metre between them, less than that. And Coulthard having to go for a second helping of toe to get track position. Nicely done. That releases him now towards Barrichello in 5th place.
So now, Mr. Producer, please let us have a look at Jacques Villeneuve and Heinz-Harald Frentzen, because Villeneuve in the BAR, and there, thank you very much, he must have heard me, because he's closed right up on Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Barrichello is right behind him. This is the battle for 4th place. Villeneuve 4th, and what is Ralf Schumacher doing? Into the pits?
It looks like a regular stop, doesn't it? And just coming in for, remember he stopped quite early in the race, so Ralf should be fueling, quite a long fuel stop I'd imagine, should be fueling him now right to the end of the race as he comes in from 2nd place. And look, all that scampering across the grass really does make it look even more of a rally car.
Yeah, and Frentzen's gone up into 2nd place with Villeneuve right behind him. Barrichello next, then Ralf Schumacher has rejoined. David Coulthard in the points, fastest man on the track. 1 minute 15.042. Fight, Ralf, to get your place back.
Bad news there for Ralf Schumacher. As he came out, Deniz and De La Rosa went through, so Ralf was going to come in somewhere around 8th place until the others make their pit stops.
Look at this. This is the battle for 2nd place. Frentzen in the yellow Jordan, Villeneuve in the white BAR, Barrichello 4th in the Ferrari, and spin for spin, and it's Jacques Villeneuve lost his position to Rubens Barrichello, but Louise Goodman down there can tell us what happened to Johnny Herbert.
I can indeed, Murray. What happened is when Johnny came in for his pit stop, he actually locked up and clipped a couple of the mechanics. The mechanics were okay, but unfortunately one of them dropped the wheel gun actually on the front wing, and the front wing got broken. That's why you saw the mechanics changing that front wing, and that's why Johnny's dropped down a bit.
Thanks, Louise. Masterly avoidance by Rubens Barrichello of Villeneuve spinning BAR. Masterly recovery by Villeneuve.
Yes, Villeneuve hooked the grass on the inside as he was getting on the throttle pedals so nearly. Look, the rear wheels so nearly touched. Remember, if you saw our track guide with Jacques earlier this weekend, he hated that turn 10 right from the get-go. As soon as he saw it with us, as he spun there yesterday too, and as soon as he saw that corner with us, as we went around the track, the first time he'd ever seen it when we were doing our track guide, he hated it immediately. And look, it's caught him out again. Coulthard now down in the 1 minute 14s. He is absolutely flying in 5th place.
Well, here is the leader. We haven't seen much of him because he's out there in front by 37.5 seconds. Michael Schumacher pacing himself to the end, but he has still got 32 laps to go. Heinz-Harald Frentzen and Barrichello battling for that 2nd position now. Barrichello trying to make it Ferrari 1st and Ferrari 2nd. Frentzen trying to stop him. Jacques Villeneuve has spun, and the McLaren mechanics are out in the pit lane for David Coulthard in 5th position. 47 seconds behind Michael Schumacher, ahead of Pedro Deniz. Ralf Schumacher is 7th. Remember, he was 2nd for a long time. Eddie Irvine is now 8th, and in comes David Coulthard. James Allen.
Yeah, it's a rough break for David Coulthard. He was going really strongly, but it probably explains his pace. They're going to fuel this car to go through to the finish. He's in a similar situation to Ralf Schumacher, but I have a hunch with Ralf that he was probably on a 2-stop strategy. Started 10th on the grid, and he was trying to make up places. But Coulthard's going to lose a lot of places here, 9.6. He'll probably rejoin about 11th place. Bad news for him.
Yeah, well done, James. That's exactly where he's rejoined, because Alesi's gone past him, and Heidfeld, Genet, and Ricardo Zonta.
And this is going to be a good one down into the first corner. Barrichello which Ferrari is that? That's Michael Schumacher, so effectively lapping David Coulthard. Schumacher yet to stop for his fuel. So David goes down a lap. I think we've just seen why Coulthard jumped the start. If you saw him as he raised the revs at the pit stop, the car started to move forward and they were still refueling it. It seems like his clutch is dragging.
Slipping clutch for David Coulthard is our guess. Michael Schumacher, nothing slipping for him at the present moment. Lap 43 ahead of David Coulthard, not just ahead of him, but a full lap ahead of him. And no McLaren in the points again, both the Ferraris in the points. Lap 45, we're riding with Rubens Barrichello, who is closing in on the yellow Jordan ahead of us, of Heinz-Harald Frentzen in second place. There's only about a second in it. Rubens Barrichello has well and truly got the message. He's lapping 0.6 of a second faster than Frentzen. He's lapping about 0.4 of a second slower than his teammate, race leader Michael Schumacher. Ferrari leads, Jordan second, Ferrari third, Villeneuve is fourth, Deniz is fifth, Zonta is sixth.
Yes, and Rubens changing something on the steering wheel there. Presumably you can't change the diff setting while you're going around, so I don't know what he would be changing in there, but surely he's now hooked this car up. He has been lapping even faster than Michael in the sister car. It was off the pace, remember, in the early stages of the race, seemed to be a sitting target for everybody as Herbert, Villeneuve and co charge past him. But now he's found some grip because he's yet to stop again. I'm sure he will have to come in for fuel one more time, will Rubens, as will Frentzen and Schumacher up there at the front.
What an astounding race this is turning out to be. Remember that Ferrari led the Constructors' Championship right up to Hungary, but then McLaren took over the lead, and now Ferrari are first and third. Are they soon going to be first and second in the United States of America at this marvellous circuit, Indianapolis?
Yes, Jordan needs these points today. They're down in fifth equal in the championship. They finished third last year. They were expecting great things this year, and it hasn't worked out. They've had reliability problems and a bit of bad luck. They have shown some good speed, as is Frentzen today up there in second place, albeit 41 seconds off the lead. But Jordan desperately need these points.
Yeah, we haven't talked much about the weather lately. You can see from the light grey coloured portion of the track that it's dry all the way round in parts. There are, of course, some damp lines. You can see it there on turn 10, the left-hander. but if you use your head, and they've certainly got plenty of brains in theirs, you can stay on the light and therefore the faster part of the circuit, which Frenson just failed to do now, and Barrichello is getting into a very strong position to get past the Jordan.
And there's a slow car on the start-finish line. Over to the right-hand side, De La Rosa is out of the race on the right. I don't think it'll be a problem. There is that car now. This looks like a video game, doesn't it? Absolutely amazing. And that is a difficult car to move out of the way. A very difficult car to clear off the line, depending on whether they choose to do so or not, or just leave it there, because that has got to travel a few hundred metres to clear it off the racetrack.
Yeah, tough for Arrows after all the complimentary things I've justifiably been saying about them. Both of them out of the race, but we're back in it, and Rubens Barrichello is well and truly on it. Look at this. Heinz Frenson second, Barrichello third, and they are 3 seconds ahead of Villeneuve, who's actually catching both of them, as Giancarlo Fisichella, Gino Fisichella as he's called here, is in 17th position entering the pit lane, and his teammate Wurz, as a matter of interest, is 15th. This circuit has not at all suited the Benettons. They have just not been able to get grip. Barrichello can and does, as does Frenson. Now out of turn 11 into turn 12. This is the flyer, 155 miles an hour. Building. Now let's listen to the revs. Wham! Down into second gear from 7th to 6th to 5th to 4th to 3rd, and Barrichello is now almost on the gearbox of Heinz-Harald Frenson in second position. But it's a cliche, here it comes. Getting there is one thing, getting past is another.
Yes, all the time. Michael's extending his lead now up front to 43.4 seconds. Coulthard came out of the pits after his stop in 8th, and Irvine in 9th. So Brits still not having much of a day. Johnny Herbert's climbed up a few, up into 14th. They're way down the field now. Michael Schumacher has not made mistakes, has not had problems. Barrichello hacksawing away at the wheel there, trying to stay in touch with Frenson, and the Ferrari mechanics I can see out of the commentary box window here in the pit lane once again. Now that should, I assume, be for Barrichello, because he stopped for slicks much earlier than Michael. And does Barrichello duck into the pit lane? No, he doesn't. It's Michael that James is expecting in down there. That is surprising. We thought he could go a little bit further than that, because he stopped quite a bit later than anybody else for those slick tyres.
Well, look at this. Frenson and Barrichello, and just out of shot is Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR in 4th position, and he is catching both of them. The BAR has been getting better and better this season. You heard Adrian Reynard, and into the pits comes Michael Schumacher with a lead of 45 seconds. He should be able to get in, take on fuel, change tyres, get out, still in the lead, James Allen.
Yeah, I think the reason for this is simply safety. He was about to catch up to Zonta and Diniz. Traffic that's moving quite quickly in 6th place, I think it is. So just a bit of caution really on Ross Brawn's part. Get him out safely. Looks pretty good at the moment. Of course, he also 7.7 seconds, also got the wave yellow flag still on the main straight, so he just wanted to get him through there nicely, and smart thinking, I think.
Here, immaculate stop, just under 8 seconds, keeps the limiter on to not exceed the speed limit in the pit lane. Rejoins the circuit, still in the lead. We wait for Frenson and Barrichello to come through. They should now be about 20 seconds behind the lead Ferrari of Michael Schumacher, who is on his 50th lap out of 73. Now there is the Jordan. There's only one of them left in the race. Turning in, and there is Frenson, followed by Barrichello. So that's the battle for second position, and I think it's just at the moment that Barrichello tries to get past by putting a wheel in the damp bit. He realises he can't get through that way, so he's got to wait. And he's got to wait until that long straight out of turn 12.
Yes, and Villeneuve, look, ever homing in on them. The shot before Murray was actually the Minardi of Mazzacani chasing John Alesi for 9th place. And still going well is Mazzacani, but this is the squabble for second. Just 0.3 of a second between them last time over the start-finish line. Looks even closer now. Villeneuve just 1.5 seconds adrift. Ferrari and Jordan in the pit lane, so we're expecting them both in this lap.
Yeah, and it's going to be critical. Can Barrichello make a faster stop than Frentzen? They're going to come in and stop virtually together. Frentzen comes in, Barrichello does not. So now, if the Jordan mechanics can make an absolutely superlative stop and the Ferrari mechanics cannot for Barrichello, it's likely that they'll both do well. It could change the positions as Mazzacani comes in, and Villeneuve is right up with Barrichello, who is now in second place.
James, what can you tell us?
Fantastic bluff there by the Ferrari team. They came out, made Jordan react, and they just, as soon as Rubens went straight on, they just came back in again, casual as you like. Meanwhile, the Jordan team have obviously made their stop. Rubens can go a couple of laps longer, put the hammer down, and maybe he'll pass him out on the track anyway.
Here is Rubens in the red Ferrari, behind him in the white BAR, Jacques Villeneuve. Here is Ralf Schumacher in 10th position, battling with Jean Alesi, and we rejoin. And Louise is with Mika Häkkinen. Louise?
Lost that transmission.
Mika, this has been a disastrous time for this to happen to you, isn't it?
So we're staying with Rubens.
Any ideas what actually happened?
I don't know, but I lost the power from the engine. So we have to ask from the technical people, from the team. They could explain it exactly what happened, but just lost the power from the engine.
How much of a disaster do you think this is in terms of your championship aspirations?
It doesn't help much, does it? But again, this race is not over yet.
Thanks, Mika.
But no, it isn't. No, it isn't over yet. Jacques Villeneuve comes into the pits, but I think Mika Häkkinen was doing all he can do now, which was clutching at straws. There's another 22 laps to go. He can only hope that Michael Schumacher will hit trouble and retire from the race. If he doesn't, it's going to mean that the German will be leading the World Championship by 8 points with 2 races to go. It's by no means insuperable for Mika Häkkinen if that were to be the case, but it's certainly not good news. Meantime, Schumacher, Michael leads on lap 52. Barrichello second. Jacques Villeneuve there, he is in 3rd position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in 4th place ahead of David Coulthard for those 2 World Championship points, which are going to be the only 2 that McLaren get in this race, unless Coulthard can improve his position. He's 12.5 seconds behind Frentzen. Deniz is in 6th place. Romania's in the top 10. Zonta. So both the BARs are in the top 7. Eddie Irvine is 8th for Jaguar. Alesi is 9th for Prost. And Schumacher, Ralph is 10th for Williams.
Barrichello there lapping the Prost and really having quite a struggle. That's the 2nd time he's been past the pits, and finally he's through. So Barrichello, that was a 1:15.0, though not a bad lap. But he surely is putting fast enough laps in. We know Frentzen's now got a fuller tank. Barrichello, I think, should be 3 or 4 seconds further down the road when he makes his stop. Give him a chance to slingshot past Frentzen in the Jordan and make it a scarlet 1-2 into the last stages of the race.
Well, we've seen Ferrari sell a magnificent, enormous dummy big enough to put in an elephant's mouth, never mind a baby's, to Jordan and Frentzen, as a result of which you're looking at, and off in the background goes Ralf Schumacher again. He's not having at all a happy race now. But Rubens Barrichello is second. It's Ferrari first, Ferrari second, Jordan third, that's Frentzen, Villeneuve fourth, Coulthard fifth, and is sixth.
Yes, Ralf, as we suspected, did have a loss of pressure, and Barrichello there across the puddle. He's in just past the 120-kilometre speed limit. It's along, it's 780 metres in total from one end of the speed limit to the other. James.
Guys, it's absolutely hilarious the way they pulled this bluff on Jordan. What's Barrichello, how's he gained? Well, 6 seconds he's made over Frentzen in the last 2 laps alone. He should comfortably rejoin in 2nd place. Brilliant pit work, great tactics by the Ferrari team.
Yes, I'm looking down towards turn 13. There is no sign yet of Heinz-Harald Frentzen as Rubens Barrichello goes up to what there is Now, I'm always very cautious about Jordans and Minardis. They're both painted yellow, but whichever it is, Rubens Barrichello has joined ahead, and it was a Minardi followed by a Jordan. So Rubens Barrichello has made what we presume to be, unless he has bad luck, his last pit stop. We're on lap 54 out of 73. Ferrari first and second. Louise Goodman has got news from Minardi.
Yeah, Murray, this new pit lane surface seems to be causing a few problems. I mentioned earlier on that Johnny Herbert had locked up and knocked into his mechanics. The same thing has just happened down at Minardi garage when Mazzacani's coming for his refuelling stop. He's not one of the gearbox mechanics, Sandro Perini over. The medics have actually been with him in the pit lane. They've just picked him up and taken him out to the back of the garage and are treating him. He doesn't look to be too badly hurt, but it's obviously going to be something that the drivers are going to have to watch out for when they're coming in to refuel.
Yeah, thank you for that, Louise. Frentzen and Villeneuve we're looking at now, fighting for third position. Well, Ferrari's last 1-2 was at Canada this year when Michael Schumacher beat Rubens Barrichello. They look, fingers crossed, as far as the Tifosi worldwide are concerned, as though they are on target for another one. But it's anybody's guess at the present moment whether it's going to be a Jordan or a BAR in third position, as we watch Frentzen fighting to retain that place as he comes up behind the Minardi and hopes to get through. It is Marc Genet that he's lapping, and the Spaniard is down in 13th place. Frentzen got ahead, Villeneuve did not. It won't be long before the Canadian, who we are with now, has a go at the yellow Minardi ahead of Marc Genet, the voluble Spaniard. And meantime, ahead, Frentzen is pulling away because there's nothing that Villeneuve can do to get past on this twisty part of the circuit. It's not until they hit the quick bit, although maybe you're close right up at Halman Boulevard, and he is going to go through on the inside as they go to turn 8. That was good news for Jacques Villeneuve. Still in fourth position ahead of David Coulthard and Deniz.
Genet having to yield, of course, now he's being lapped, so blue flags waving there for Genet, and lets Villeneuve through. Villeneuve will be ruining that spin he had in turn 10. That certainly lost him his chance in the pit stops to leapfrog Frentzen, and it's Barrichello who got that job done. Barrichello now running some 40 seconds behind teammate Michael Schumacher. Isn't this looking good for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship too?
Indeed it is. They're on a potential 16 points. They were 4 points behind McLaren when this race finished. So if they're taking the lead in the Drivers' Championship from Mika Häkkinen with Michael Schumacher, they're taking the lead, or will be if things stay as they are, in the Constructors' Championship by a very sturdy 12 points. Great news for Ferrari, who won the Constructors' Championship, of course, last year. Bad news for McLaren. And things have seesawed this season. We've had a wonderful fight for the Drivers' Championship. Michael Schumacher led it right the way through to Germany, and then Mika Häkkinen took it over with 2 successive victories in Hungary and Belgium. He kept it in Italy. And now it looks, but I'm being very cautious because this race has still got some distance to go. We're on lap 57 out of 73. It looks as though Michael Schumacher is going to take it back again with 2 races to go, and that Ferrari are similarly going to go back into the lead, which they lost in Germany in the Constructors' Championship. And it's no less than Michael Schumacher, and in my opinion Ferrari deserve. Michael left Benetton in 1995, as I've said before, to take up the challenge of bringing Ferrari back to the front after being out for a long time. They last won the Drivers' Championship in 1979 with Jody Scheckter, and Michael Schumacher has finished second for Ferrari 3 times. He lost 1 championship under very contentious circumstances at Jerez to the man you're looking at now, Jacques Villeneuve, who was then driving for Williams. But with Ross Brawn and Rory Byrne and Jean Todt, they have reformed Ferrari brilliantly, and it looks as though things may be coming good for them. But like I always say, anything can happen in Formula One, and it usually does. We've still got a lot of points. We've got 20 points left over Japan and Malaysia in the Drivers' Championship after this race, and 32 points left in the Constructors' Championship after this race, as Heinz-Harald Frentzen causes our camera there with a bit of spray from his rear wheels to mist up a bit. The film changes and Jacques Villeneuve sees the Jordan ahead of him as they come through to complete their 57th lap, which of course Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello have already done. And Villeneuve is certainly fighting, is he not? Look at the way he closes on Frentzen.
Yes, he's been a lot faster this last 3 or 4 laps. Great drive here from Villeneuve, notwithstanding that slightly careless spin. A bit unfortunately, he just got a wheel on the grass and it plucked him round. Coulthard is quicker than the lot of them, but he's 12 seconds behind Villeneuve with 15 laps to go. So Coulthard really has, I don't think he's got enough time to get up there and join that scrap for 3rd place.
Incidentally, apologies to McLaren and David Coulthard. I forgot when I was doing my mental arithmetic just now that David Coulthard is in 5th position, which is a potential 2 World Championship points. So that would close things up a bit between McLaren and Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Diniz there in 6th place, starting to come under pressure from Zonta in the white BAR there, the final World Championship point of the afternoon. At the moment anyway, at least between Diniz and Zonta, and Diniz coming under pressure.
Yeah, and it looks to me like if they stay where they are, the best race that BAR have ever had, because potentially they've got Jacques Villeneuve finishing 4th, potentially they've got Zonta finishing 6th, if he can catch and get past the Sauber that we're looking at of Pedro Diniz. And that would be their first ever finish in a race with both their cars in the points. And Diniz goes into the pits, and Zonta does move up a place into the points, into 6th position. Now, he's stopped twice. Pedro Diniz has already stopped twice. So it is looking good for BAR, as Schumacher, who has lapped everybody up to Zonta, who is 6th, goes through.
Now, the Sauber pit is right outside, and they've only just got the 4th tyres there, 3rd and 4th tyres, so they were not expecting Pedro Diniz in the pits that time around. And it's a long pit stop. Watching him now, you're watching Michael Schumacher. Diniz is away, and that took everybody by surprise. That's his 3rd stop of the afternoon.
Lap 60, 73 lap race. There's Schumacher, 40 seconds ahead of his teammate Rubens Barrichello, who is 5 seconds ahead of Frentzen, who has got Jacques Villeneuve metaphorically attached to his rear wing. David Coulthard in 5th place is closing on Villeneuve's BAR and Frentzen's Jordan ahead of him. He's lapping about half a second quicker than they are, but as he's some 11 seconds behind them, it's going to be nip and tuck as far as him getting 4th, let alone 3rd place. And in 6th position, as I've just said, Ricardo Zonta. So fingers crossed, BAR enthusiasts, everybody at Bicester, Brackley, where the factory is, and it's very good news indeed for BAR. There is the proof, as Jacques Villeneuve is right behind the 3rd place man, Heinz-Harald Frentzen from Mönchengladbach in Germany. We ride with Villeneuve.
Yes, this is Villeneuve's worst part of the circuit, the 2 hairpins at 9 and 10. Frentzen snaking around there trying to apply his 800 horsepower. Turn 11, there's a nasty wet patch, little puddle on the curb, the exit curb. He tends to throw up a little bit of water and dust onto Villeneuve's visor. The camera can clear itself. Villeneuve's too busy to wipe his visor at the moment as he tries desperately to get in the slipstream of Frentzen. They're doing about 200 miles an hour now, and I think that camera angle's slightly deceptive once again. Villeneuve nowhere near close enough to have a go. There's absolutely nothing between these two. Both on, and that time around it was 0.008 of a second between their 2 lap times.
Yeah, the interesting thing about this to me is that the Jordan has got the Mugen Honda engine, and Jacques Villeneuve's BAR has got the official Works Honda engine. Next year, Jordan are getting the official Works Honda engine. So Jacques Villeneuve, for political as well as practical and personal reasons, really needs to get ahead of Frentzen's car, which theoretically anyway has got at least a marginally inferior engine in it.
Yes, Ralf Schumacher, who was running such a strong second early in this race, has stopped for the 5th time this afternoon. I think they're having to constantly recharge the pneumatic system, and Ralf really just dropping completely out of contention. He's effectively 15th and last now.
Not a good race for Williams, but they're 14 points ahead of Benetton in the Constructors' Championship in third place. Ralf Schumacher, I can tell you, is out of the car. Of course, Jenson Button retired a long time ago, so it's a double retirement for Williams. Rotten luck, but they've had an absolutely wonderful season, as I said earlier on, much better than they could have expected, and they're not going to lose their third position in the Constructors' Championship. Lap 64, Schumacher still way out ahead, Barrichello still second. This is the battle, and what a battle, for third position between the Jordan of Heinz-Harald Frentzen and the car we are riding with, that of Jacques Villeneuve, the BAR. And as I was saying earlier on, it's very important to Villeneuve for all sorts of reasons, political, practical and personal, that he gets ahead of Frentzen, because Frentzen has got a semi-works Mugen Honda engine and BAR have got a works Honda engine. They will want to beat their Japanese rivals, especially as Jordan has got the works Honda engine next year.
Yes, and Villeneuve there's got a nasty case of understeer developing, and that's holding him up through the complex, through the infield, but still he's able to be that little bit quicker than Frentzen, but he just cannot get enough of a slipstream down the main straight. Here's another opportunity. They do not lift the throttle for over 22 seconds, and he's just sitting there. You just never seem to have enough horsepower, however much you've got. And this time Jacques has got a nice toe, and I'm sure Jacques can be the last of the late breakers if he needs to be, but there's not a lot between the Mugen Honda and the Honda, is there? And he takes a dive up the inside, yes, and he's going to go wide. That's the problem. He's going to have to take to the grass. There is an escape road there, would have cost him a lot of time, and that really, now we'll see how fast Jacques is, see if he can close that gap straight back up again. But the only thing he could do was a big stab up the inside.
Well, he tried, and he was right to try. He's tried before this season and taken somebody off. Here's a replay coming up to turn one. They're doing about 210 miles an hour as they close. Villeneuve goes through, runs wide onto the grass, loses traction, does well to keep the car pointing straight and not go up the escape road. And of course now Frentzen has massively increased the gap between himself and the BAR, which is back on the track.
Yeah, tad ambitious that one there, Jacques. I think it came from about 3 car lengths back, and that's the net result. I think he had to have a go, but he was just a little bit too late on the brakes. I think he could have made it, he just braked too late.
Yeah. They all tend to blur together. Where was it that he took Schumacher off? Ralph Schumacher in the Williams.
That was in Canada at the hairpin in Montreal.
Right.
So that gives Frentzen a bit of breathing space, and can Jacques now. They're both lapping pretty quickly anyway, but can Villeneuve clean those tyres up, warm them back up again, and start closing that gap down? Coulthard 9.8 seconds behind Villeneuve last time around. It's going to be significantly less. It's now 5.8 because of the time Villeneuve lost. So Coulthard homing in on the pair of them again.
Lap 66 out of 73, race order top 10. Michael Schumacher leads his Ferrari teammate Rubens Barrichello by 30 seconds. Frentzen is 8 seconds behind them. Off spins the Prost. At John Alesi. 3rd position, Heitz Frentzen. 4th, Villeneuve. David Coulthard is 5th. Zonta is 6th. Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar is 7th. Alesi, who has just spun, is out of the race, so up into 8th position goes his teammate Nick Heidfeld, and in 10th position is Pedro Diniz.
Yes, that's the engine seizing up there. Alesi trying to clear the track, trying not to leave oil on the racing line, the pro that he is, but I think the engine seizes basically and puts him off the road.
Yeah, I missed one of them actually. It's as a result of that move. Alexander Wurz is now in 10th position, pursued by Johnny Herbert, who is in 11th position. Retirements as you watch Michael Schumacher on lap 77 out of 73 in order of retirement. Jarno Trulli, Jordan, Jensen, Button, Williams, Mika Salo, Sauber, Mika Hakkinen, McLaren, Jos Verstappen, Arrows, Fisichella, Benetton, De La Rosa, Arrows, Ralf Schumacher, Williams, both the Williams out of the race, both the Arrows out of the race. Last man as ever, but he is running, Gaston Mazzacane, 14th, and he is, in fact, he's out of the race now. 12 left out of the 22 who started, and Michael Schumacher coming through yet again, this time to complete his 66th lap.
Yeah, he's the slowest man on the track at the moment by some margin, just stroking it. 29-second lead with those 6 laps remaining, so Michael just on an afternoon cruise. He's done the hard work, he can now coast a little.
Martin, we've got the luxury of the computer which tells us where everybody is, pictures of everybody around the track which are ever changing, but from a spectator's point of view, as Alesi walks in, they're seeing a Schumacher, an enormous gap to Barrichello, a gap to Frentzen, Villeneuve catching him, David Coulthard 5th. What are they going to think of this, do you think?
Well, they've seen a standing start, they saw some good tactics. If they've been able to follow the race and been able to understand what's happening in front of them, I think the crowd have enjoyed it. They just seem to get into it here. The fans here just come along, and they're determined to be entertained and happy, I have to say.
Yeah, when the cars went onto the circuit for the first time today, and this is the big crowd, of course, we had a lot here yesterday for qualifying, but when they went onto the circuit for the final half hour of practice this morning, there was a gigantic eruption of applause from this enormous crowd. There are a massive number of petrol heads here. 60,000 people have come from Canada, and the Canadian there, Jacques Villeneuve, is closing up on Germany's Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's still fighting for that 3rd position.
Yeah, he's 3/4 of a second a lap faster, so demonstrates to you just how much Frentzen has been holding him up. But why should Frentzen yield? Of course, he will not. But Villeneuve is going to have to get in that slipstream once again and somehow try not to brake quite so late.
Yeah, as Michael Schumacher is on his 69th lap. What I haven't mentioned today, and what you could see if the camera was high enough, is the marvellous Hall of Fame at Indianapolis, this fantastic museum which has great Indy cars from the past, Formula One cars, sports cars, and is magnificently displayed, everything. And there is, including in that, a Stewart from last year, the Jackie Stewart car. And now we're on lap 69. And off goes Michael Schumacher.
What on earth is he doing? That's amazing. Michael half asleep. He's got plenty of lead left to get away with that. But Michael obviously just falling asleep a little bit with his cruise and off onto the grass. Absolutely amazing. He had a 26-second lead last time around. That's cost him 4 or 5. Turns into the hairpin look. Goes on the grass on the way in. And that's exactly the part that caught out Jacques Villeneuve earlier on. Just dips the right-hand wheel on the grass at the same time as applying the throttle, and Schumi half asleep. That'll wake him up.
How very lucky he was that there was not a high curb there, because if there had been, the Ferrari would have beached. He wouldn't have been able to get the power through the back wheels, especially on the grass there. But it looks as though, luckily for him, he's got away with it, literally got away with it, on lap 70, with 3 more to go at the end of this. Well, there's a Ferrari in second place, don't forget. They are still on target for a maximum of 16 World Championship points, the first time they would have done that since the Canadian Grand Prix, which was race 8, and this is race 15 with 2 to go. And McLaren currently leading the Constructors' Championship, because this race is far from over, are only on a potential 2 World Championship points for David Coulthard in that 5th position. The BARs of Zonta and Villeneuve are still both in the points to make history for the team if they can stay where they are. Frentzen there, right hand of the cars, 3rd position. Now behind Zonta in the BAR 6th position is Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar. He's lapping marginally quicker, but he's 22 seconds behind Zonta, so I don't think there's any question of catching him. And James Allen, what is the last minute news from Ferrari?
Well, they're laughing now, Murray, but you can imagine how anxious they were. Giant relief down here. And I went up to a few of them and said, what about that then? And they said, oh, well, that's Michael, you know, he's a genius. But sometimes, remember Monaco a few years ago, guys, where he was miles ahead in the lead. He went straight on at Saint-Devote and spun it round. He's done it 2 or 3 times. He's done it here today, and hopefully for them, he's got away with it.
Lap 71 for Michael Schumacher, 72 and 73 to come. David Coulthard there, out on his own. The man who won in Britain, the one who won brilliantly at Monaco and the French Grand Prix. 3 victories this year, 3rd in the World Championship. He's going to close the gap between himself and Mika Häkkinen, but since that gap was some 17 points, it's not going to make a lot of difference.
Yeah, I think it was 19. I hate to tell you also, Villeneuve and Zonta finished 4th and 6th in the very first race of the year, to give them a BAR, 2 cars in the top 6, but can Villeneuve make it the first podium, I believe it would be, ever for the BAR team?
Yes, indeed, it would be, and they all deserve to do well, the Formula One constructors. They all try massively hard, they all work all-nighters when they have to, they all spend an enormous amount of money, and no, none of them fail to deserve success. BAR have had a particularly torrid introduction to Formula One last year, and they richly deserve that 3rd place, which would be Jacques Villeneuve if he can only get past Heinz-Harald Frentzen. But he hasn't got long to do it, because Michael Schumacher is now on his last lap but 1. Each lap 2.6 miles long, so he's got less than 5 miles now as I talk to you. And how Villeneuve is trying. He's throwing caution to the winds. He's going to get right up behind Heinz-Harald Frentzen and then pressure the German right to the last knockings, and he's still on it. Look at him.
Yeah, a bit leery there from Jacques, but it worked out quite well. He managed just to get the nose into the corner somehow as they now head into turn 8. A little short squirt into 9, and this is where Jacques is very fast, even though he spun there earlier on. Or I should say more, Frentzen seems slow through there, and Jacques has got a great chance of getting in the slipstream as Michael Schumacher commences his final tour, Murray.
Michael Schumacher is on lap 73 out of 73 to come home and win, if he can just do this last 2.5 miles, a truly historic race. The first Formula One Grand Prix ever to be held at the fabled Indianapolis Motor Speedway, which has seen so much fantastic action from American drivers, American cars, Brazilian drivers, British drivers, Scottish drivers. Let us not forget that Graham Hill won here and Jackie Stewart won here, but it's going to be a marvellous victory for Michael Schumacher. And remember, how he jumps up with joy on the victory podium. Well, we're going to be seeing the biggest leap of all if he just gets through these final few yards left. He tiptoes round turn 10, goes underneath the banner into turn 11. This is where the really fast part of the circuit begins, and Michael Schumacher can coast home now. This is going to be his 7th win of the year to put him back into the lead of the Drivers' World Championship, and in so doing to take Ferrari there as well in the Constructors' Championship. Yes, victory for Schumacher. Now, the gap between himself and Rubens Barrichello, his teammate, had closed to under 13 seconds on the previous lap. There's Barrichello crossing the line to make it 16 points for Ferrari. First, Ferrari second. Now, who's going to be third?
Frenson's over the line. No, yes, Frenson has already gone over the line. Look, he took the 3rd place from Villeneuve, and they ended up just 17 seconds behind Michael Schumacher in the end. They were they're closing that gap. Remember, Michael on a coast, then had a spin. But what a great race for Ferrari. This was the great unknown of the championship year. Ferrari have taken it. Remember just how good Michael was in Malaysia last year, despite there being a few dramas on technicalities on the car. There's there's a little bit of unease in the paddock about the extending the pit lane and moving the grid, the pole position slot, and certainly some unhappy people around in the paddock that it seems to always fall in Ferrari's favour. But whatever happened, they went out there and just won the race.
Just look at that picture. The Ferrarista are here in massive numbers with their flags. This could almost be Monza if it wasn't a double tier. Well, let's establish that this is only the 3rd time that a Jordan has finished on the podium this year. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has done it, but look at that shot. Ferrari first, Ferrari second. Michael Schumacher now leads Mika Häkkinen in the World Championship by 8 points. David Coulthard is in 3rd position, as he was before, and Rubens Barrichello is in 4th place. So That's the news, with Ralf Schumacher 5th and Fisichella in 6th position. And you can see the happiness, the joy from that picture. It needs no added words from me. Well done, Rubens. It's the 4th time he's finished in 2nd place this year. Harold Frentzen is a very modest, quiet and laid-back chap. He's been in the points 4 times. This is the 5th time, and it's only the 2nd time he's been on the podium. But it's amazing, because it really did look up to the Italian Grand Prix as though McLaren and Häkkinen were on top. Then the tables were turned with that victory from Michael Schumacher in Italy over Mika Häkkinen. And now John Todt was in tears as Corinna, who Michael Schumacher's wife, joyfully embraces her husband. John Todt does the same thing. Well, this is a tremendous release of emotion.
Yes, because they had it in the bag, it seemed, didn't they, earlier on in the season, when Michael Schumacher was some 21 points ahead after the 3rd race, and then it started to slip away from them to the point where Häkkinen actually took the lead of the championship in Hungary, and it seemed if once again Ferrari and Michael Schumacher would be denied. And now the last 2 races, Schumi's won it, and it is a huge relief for him. We saw the emotion in the press conference from Michael Schumacher in Monza. Jean Todt, the team boss there, the man who works 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, 6-7 days a week to try to bring this championship to Ferrari. He was in tears too, and well, they're just that pressure has got to be released somehow, and these guys got the job done today.
Well, there is the new victory circle at Indianapolis, where we're going to see the podium men get up on those top 3 steps. Ferrari now lead McLaren by 10 points in the World Championship for Constructors. All is not lost for Häkkinen or for McLaren for that matter, because there are still 20 World Championship drivers' points to be had, and Schumacher leads Häkkinen by 8 points, and there are still 32 Constructors' World Championship points to be had in a situation where Ferrari are 10 ahead of McLaren. So we go from America to Japan with great expectations. I've always said that I thought this championship was going down to the last race of the year in Malaysia. I'm firmly convinced that it is now, and it would be a wonderful and richly deserved reward for the Sepang circuit and everybody in Malaysia that's done such a fantastic job to bring it to the forefront, if that happens.
Yes, Michael only has to score 3 points more than Mika in Japan to take the championship. But Mika's been absolutely stunning there in the last couple of seasons to take the World Championship. And it was Michael who was stunning in Malaysia.
Here we go. Are we going to see the jump? Michael Schumacher mounts the victory podium, puts back his shoulders and breathes a deep, deep sigh of relief, happiness and satisfaction. Alongside him, Rubens Barrichello and the national anthem for Germany. Giuseppe. It's a great, great tune, and Rubens Barrichello thinks so. I saw somebody slip him a national flag of Brazil, and I'm wondering if we're going to see that later on during the proceedings. Well, you might almost be in Italy. Just look at that crowd, look at those flags, and look at that! Well, another one for Michael Schumacher's massive trophy cupboard at his home in Switzerland, and another one too for Rubens Barrichello, eventually as Ross Brawn, the brains behind the Ferrari tactics and the technical chief, takes the trophy for the constructors' victory for Ferrari.
It's Michael's 79th podium in 142 starts. Amazing, isn't it? What an amazing record.
It's the record of all time. Nobody's got as many wins per start as he has. Frentzen receives his third place award. I don't know about you, Martin, but I think for America this has been a great reintroduction to Formula One.
Well, if it doesn't work here, it won't work anywhere for Formula One in America, but I think everybody involved in Formula One will go home from here quite satisfied. Good show, good circuit, and very good support we had over here. Michael Schumacher turned it on. What a shame Häkkinen went out of the race. That was shaping up to be a great scrap between two titans of the current Formula One scene.
Okay, lads, let's waste a bit more champagne. I hope everybody, you have enjoyed it as much as we have.